We are talking to Xavier Hawk, who's a crypto OG. He's been around for many, many years in that space and has been working with that. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about where you started out with that.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. This is going to be an exciting discussion, I think. Mjolnir, I've known you for some time now in the Phireon discussion groups. And so I got started because I was an entrepreneur building in an entrepreneurial family. I started a home health agency with my family. I was a teenager and my mom is an immigrant and she was like a nurse for a long time. And so she said, you know, I have this opportunity to start this agency. Will you help me navigate, you know, all of the things that I'm not familiar with? And I did. And I, you know, built the business from the ground up with her. And so I had hands-on experience running a company, 500 employees. And I just always, even as a young person, played life to my own tune. Like I danced to the beat of my own drummer, and I had a very, very robust and still do internal world and connection with God and spirituality. And I never did what felt uncomfortable. So just to give you an example, in school, when we had to sit and listen to the lectures, I was so quick, I understood what they were going to say before they finished. So I needed to do something else, or I was going to be I would have probably been labeled as ADHD or something back then, right? Before they had that term. So I would draw and I would draw and I would draw. And sometimes this would upset the teachers, sometimes it wouldn't. But when I had to hand in my notes and I handed in a page full of drawings, like a notebook full of drawings, they were very upset and they're like, we're going to give you an F. And I said, no, this is exactly when you spoke about Jefferson. This is exactly when you spoke about Newton. These are all, like I literally read back to them their instructions and their teachings, but in art form. So I've always been on that sort of dance to the beat of your own drummer thing. And so growing up in an entrepreneurial family and having that spiritual foundation and that bent, I looked around at the world with a clear lens and said, this is messed up. This isn't the way things could be. Like I started seeing all the issues with society and how simple there were simple solutions, but they weren't being implemented because people were afraid or and so ingrained in a matrix-like system that they couldn't see outside of it. It was like rats in a maze, and that there's a whole squad of us realizing that this is a maze. Even though a lot of us got really good at running the maze, you know, they haven't looked at it as a maze. But I think a lot of us have. And so, you know, take all of those three things together, and I say, you know, that set me out on my own path. And it said to me, like, we have to build alternatives that aren't just alternatives, but that are strong enough and viable enough to become the foundations of a new way of doing things collectively, right? So all of that plus permaculture and finance, and then, you know, and then cryptocurrency happened, and it's like the world is there right in front of us. All we have to do is run and grab it.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because like normally you'd say cryptocurrency and permaculture is like that's two very, very separate themes. And
right.
Before this talk, we were talking about like we see a big movement towards like people want to go back and they want to create these small communities. We want to homesteading. A lot of people see like the Amish as sort of role models for where we want to go, and surely some people will go that way, and not a lot of us that are the way we are want to move the way of the smart cities and all that. So finding some middle way or alternatives is like, because the way of the future is things like
we can't escape technology.
No.
It'll happen.
That's 100%. And what people don't realize when it comes to blockchain technology is, just like every other technology in some ways, it can either enslave us or it can liberate us. And if we don't involve ourselves in it and we wait for somebody else to do it, it will become the tool that governments and or private interests enslave humanity. And like what we're seeing in China is the social credit system. And if you do, and we're seeing it now with the war in Ukraine, right? United States corporations, big tech companies are shutting off the average citizen in Russia from basic services. That doesn't make sense. Like I just got an email from Google saying that they're going to shut off all services for Russian civilians. And it's like, This is the future. And if these companies become so large and enumerated to and capable to understand us humans better than we understand ourselves, then we literally become enslaved in our minds and our behaviors, and we think that we're free, but that right now we do. But right now that is changing, and it's changing significantly for people in China. It's changing significantly for people in Russia. And if we, the West, think it's not going to, we're deluded. Anybody who's given the rope to ensnare, resources will do so. And the fundamental problem is that a large percentage of our society, well, culturally, we look at trees, minerals, plants, animals as resources and not family.
Yeah.
This is the foundational difference between us and a successful civilization, when we recognize that we are in partnership with all of these things. So if there are humans who look at those things as resources and not as family, then they can easily look at you and me in the same way. Human resources and not a human family. And when that happens, it's going to be a bad situation, especially when you have the capability of blockchain. I don't know if you are familiar with Star Wars, but I'm a big Star Wars fan. And there was a series called Star Wars Rebels. And in Star Wars Rebels, everybody in the galaxy had what was called a chain code. And that is how they tracked them across every system, every planet, every system. And that is, and not to get like too sci-fi about it, but literally when you have a blockchain ID that's immutable, or that you can add data to, but is immutable, meaning when you add data, you can't remove it. It keeps a record of that data. Anything bad that you do, mistake, childhood, you're out partying with your friends and you do something like that, then follows you forever. And the social credit system in China is controlled by the CCP. It is one group of people saying, if you do not do what we want, we're going to cut you off of all of the services, supplies, money, transport, all, like you will be like an animal. So it's like you are an animal now, like a complex chicken, with all of your behaviors mapped out on all of these devices with a chain code that follows you around everywhere now. If we do not build a system that protects us individually as spirits, as humans, as souls, divine, eternal, beautiful beings, and allows us to have those moments of privacy, reflection, where we have to try things to find out what we are and who we are and how we're meant to develop, that's how we have to do it. We have to have a situation that is that decentralized, distributed ownership with privacy as paramount. And that's what we're
kind of already there, with Facebook and Amazon and Google. It's only like we in the West have a sort of a semblance layer of freedom. That's
right.
It's only a semblance, like we're like very few steps behind China in actuality.
Yeah, it's starting in Denmark as we speak right now, with new IDs.
Yeah.
They really pushed it forward with this whole COVID thing.
It was the Trojan horse for all that stuff.
Yep. And it made everybody so scared that they would be just willing to go into it, right? And to the point where you have members of the population fighting with other members, and they're so scared, and they're just trying to make other people scared and enforce that. Like, so there's this social conditioning, there's the government conditioning, and it's, we have to find a solution, and we have to do it quick.
But I think we're also quite far along the road on that path as well, like the two parallel paths, because I see so many people. Like, we were talking to Joel Salads, and he said the prices of small homesteads in the US have doubled before all this inflation stuff, because so many people are doing this. They're going back to the land, they're building communities and all that. So there is stuff like that going on, and then we have to couple some of it with your ideas. So what do you see as the way forward? Where is Phireon that you've started up? Where does that fit in? How does it work? Just like a small overview of your life.
Yeah.
And go.
So what Phireon is essentially, its full fruition in its final form will be a virtual nation, a nation recognized by the UN, recognized by you know, you know what CERN is? Its own sovereign site. There's nobody can sue them, right? They're doing things without any oversight, without any permission from everybody on the planet. Fantastic. And dangerous stuff, mind you. So CERN has its own jurisdiction. The Vatican has its own jurisdiction. Washington, D.C., the city of London. There are now special economic zones being built around the world. This Phireon will eventually be one of those where you can get a virtual citizenship and a passport, and you could actually become a full-time citizen of Phireon, right? And then, but it also provides privacy and banking. So when you join the system, we can check your KYC and AML, which is know your client or know your customer, and anti-money laundering laws, and meet the the international laws, and make sure that you're not a child trafficker or drug trafficker or horrible creature. And then once you're in, if you've given up your humanity card, you're not welcome, right? And so then once you're in, we use the chain codes, we use the different blockchains, but we scramble your data inside of it so that when you're using your transactions or your financial data, that is private to you. If you're touching your medical data or give somebody permission for your medical data, we don't know who those end users are, but we can get you your medical data fees, right? We could like sell your medical data with nobody knowing who it is, but give you directly the money, right? So we can protect and sort of commoditize your data for you while protecting your identity. And then if we get subpoenaed by any country or any government, we can say, good, here's all of the data. We can't figure it out. Good luck. Right? So that way we meet all their laws and all of their requirements, but while still protecting our citizens or protecting our member owners. And when you become a member of Phireon, you become a member owner. It's a cooperative. You have a say in how the government or how the company itself is run. And then you're given pathways that you can take within the corporation to earn yourself a living and earn yourself a basic wage, right? And ultimately, the goal of Phireon, the bank and the cooperative virtual nation, is to end poverty for all of our users, which is very, very doable without something like socialism, without something like communism, but very, very doable when we understand that we are all in cooperation. So cooperative capitalism is a term that I've been using and saying, when we recognize that we are family, and not just us two-leggeds, but also the winged ones, and also the oceans and the skies and the trees and the animals and the plants, then we are in relation, and we can build an economy of scale on permaculture methods, which people are now calling regenerative agriculture. So I started in permaculture and built a community on a farm on our property in the mountains. And then from there I said, and I was really doing that to prepare for the end of the world, right? Like the end of the world, right? Like that we're right here in the middle of what seems like the apocalypse. I got my gold, I got my guns, I got my, and all of those things sank in a boating accident. So, it's a shame.
Sorry.
All of those things sank in a boating accident. So, but then I was like, am I just going to sit here waiting for the end? And so I looked out into the world and I said, what would be the one thing, if I could change, would systemically fix everything, right? It's like if you had cancer, what would be the one spot that you could fix it and then the rest of the body could heal? And it was finance. It was currency design, right? And so that's where I came up with the multi-asset backed stable price trading instrument or a cryptocurrency. And this was at the very outset of the industry. And so I got very heavily involved in that industry and said, we can, and I've been talking about this since the very beginning, since 2013, while everybody else is like hyped about making money. The reason they're hyped about making money is they're trying to break out of the system. They're trying to have enough money so they can have the freedom to not be enslaved by the system that at the soul level feels like more and more and more encroaching.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to run and work, 18, 20 hours a day. I shouldn't say nobody. There are people who it's really good for, but for the most part, like average humans want to gaze at the stars, gaze at each other, have meaningful discussions, play, make music, be artistic, express the soul of God within. But to go and live, to work, to die, just to try to break free of the system, there's something wrong with the system. So what our approach has been is, how do we fundamentally change that one thing, currency, make it become abundance for everybody instead of scarcity. And instead of an extractive model, a cooperative model. And how do we distribute the governance and the ownership so that everybody feels like they have a say in how it develops? And not a say based on how much money they have, but a say based on how they are, who they are, that they are.
So it's basically permaculture for the world, the money system, like it's regenerative and restorative.
So money will grow on trees.
Basically, so we have so many cool creative ways of making money these days. There are so many financial instruments. There's just providing liquidity on exchange in a cryptocurrency ecosystem right now. You could completely like live off of that. If you acquired enough cryptocurrency, you put it on an exchange as a liquidity provider tool, or you end up staking it, and then you can earn interest off of it more so than you would at a bank, 10, 20, 30 sometimes percent. And I know people who are living that way. They have their trading amounts, they have their staking amounts, and they live off of the earnings, off of the both, right? Yeah. So there are ways to break free now and find that financial freedom, and everybody has to some degree. But then we have to look at the system itself and redesign it from the ground up. So, my partners call me a futurist, and I agree in some respects because I see what's possible and I build backwards from that. I say, okay, that's where we're going. How do I get there, right? Yeah. Instead of, I need to survive, I need to survive. We need to get more humans out of that. I need to survive, and into feeling free enough to live into the future. And then we'll build an amazing civilization full of art and balanced ecosystems and just inspiration and exploration, right? So when we look at Phireon as a way to build a model that's better, that's really decentralized, unlike a lot of the so-called decentralized platforms out there, this one truly is in terms of representation.
In many ways, like it sounds like you will own nothing and be happy. Like the shine of the model they're putting up right now with like Klaus Schwab type people.
Dr. Evil.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So will, like, if you're in that system, Phireon, you're in that, do you own anything, or how does that, like, how does ownership work in that system?
Yeah. So in the current great reset model, it's you will own nothing and be happy, right?
Yeah. We dictate.
And that's it. It's serfdom. It's feudalism, corporate feudalism, neo-corporate feudalism, or corporate neo-feudal, one of those, right? And it's essentially where, like, peasants on the farm of the lords, and you will be peasants on the farms of the lords, and the lords will be these corporations and these large organizations, and it will be like high-tech peasantry that you can never break out of, right? That's the great reset, and people don't seem to understand that. And these bad people at the top think that they're doing good and that they're organizing society for everybody and all of this stuff. And what they're doing is they're breaking the whole thing, and they're dooming civilization if they do this. So what Phireon does is we say, you have your ownership of all of those things. If you want to own a house, good for you. We're not trying to become BlackRock and take all of this, but they are, and they're trying to do that. And you can't stand a chance against them as an individual. But if we get enough people together and build our economy and our value system and start exchanging currency, right? The current of our seeing, the currency, then we start building a charge, and we become stronger as a collective than even these big corporations. Because we're not just fighting people now, we're fighting principalities, right? In the Bible, it says we're not fighting against kings and pharaohs. We are fighting against principalities of these nations. And what that means is the spirits of them, and the spirits of the corporations, and the spirits of, this extractive system is very dark and demonic. And the only way we can face that is as a collective who are bright, who are shiny, who are honest, who are truthful, and dedicated to righteousness and goodness. And if we come together as a nation of people around the world to do that, we can do that. But to specifically address your question of ownership, the bank, Phireon the bank, will go and buy lots of things. We'll buy yachts, we'll buy skyscrapers, we'll build skyscrapers and make housing, and we'll provide these things. and we'll provide, but they'll all be in a trust owned by the earth, right? We will set up the trust in such a way that these things can never be sold or partitioned off. They have to be protected. And then what will happen is we will sell access, myself included, everybody access, leases, lifelong leases is what we use in building communities and regenerative communities. We put the land in trust and everybody gets rights to that land as part of it's like, and those leases, those lifelong leases are just like buying real estate, comparable in price. So you build a house there or you finance a house there on the property, that's your property, right? We build a skyscraper and we lease out an apartment, that becomes yours, and you can deed that to your children, right? But you can only deed it or sell it to people who are in the corporation. We have the rights of first purchase, basically, because we want people of the same value. So I took the model that I built on our farm and how we wanted to build this intentional community that allowed people to have their ownership and their rights, right? But then have solve the tragedy of the commons. And we've done that in our governance system in Phireon. We've solved all 8 of Eleanor Ostrom's principles for the tragedy, to solve for the tragedy of the commons. So in Phireon, you own whatever you have, whatever you want. You'll get a basic wage for welcome to Earth. And because we have done cool, creative things with our financial instruments, our lending, we're able to create abundance out of the fruits of our labors, right? And the ways that Phireon makes profits is we process everybody's transactions. So we're getting a couple % on every transaction you do. Yeah. There doesn't need to be any more taxes than that, right? And then we also, if you have a business that you want to start, you petition the rest of the company out of that money that we make on the transactions and the exchange, right? Because people will be trading and exchanging currencies. So we're making money on those exchange transactions and on the credit card transactions that you spend. Out of that, we're able to then start lending people money. You have an idea, you want to start a taco truck, and you're like, it's $50,000. I need $50,000, and here's my experience. You give a video and you convince everybody, and they're like Kickstarter, and then they're like, cool. Out of the $10 million we made last month processing transactions, we'll give you your $50,000. So long as you build it in our cooperative network, as become a vendor, and do it on smart contracts with crypto, and then we can take 10% of your earnings, right, as a tithe, basically. Yeah. Out of those 2 revenue streams, we will be able to create a lot of value, a lot of revenue, right? Yeah. And another way we do it is by creating economies for people. So let's say you have a community and you want to create a currency. We create the currency for you. We keep a percentage of that to build your economy. Then the other way is that when we're trading all of these, we have a division who just focuses on making investments and having those investments turn into profits for the company. So out of those revenue systems, so we go and buy, going back to the asset-backed cryptocurrency, we go and buy a bunch of things, put them in vaults, secure them, gold, coffee, commodities, land, business stocks, currencies, put them into ownership and vault them, secure them, audit them, show everybody in the company, like this is, you can go audit everything. So now this is how much money we have in the bank. And now we can say all of our currency is worth X amount of dollars because of all of these commodities, right? Yeah. And as we trade those commodities, we have a division that will just focus on doing that trading. We're making profits on those commodities, dealing with the governments and the corporations of the world. So all of those ways that we generate revenue and the ways banks generate revenue, we're able to then, with complementary currencies, pay all of our members dividends, and then also, different rewards for different levels of achievement in the company. You can get a paycheck from the company, but then you can also get distributions. So through a complex methodology, we're able to create a basic wage for all of our members. And the amount of members versus the amount of abundance that we have or surplus gauges how big and how many people we can allow in the company at any given time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's pretty good. That sounds awesome.
So you're not from this time, I sense.
Yeah.
This is,
you've been planning.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to be here. It's hard for me here.
It is because you're coming with what was going to happen, which was inevitable to happen. And so and everything that they are doing is what we want, but in a twisted way. So they have taken but our idea, like you're presenting it.
The Club of Rome,
and had twisted it just a little bit.
Correct.
So now they're coming with the UBI, the universal basic income, and we're like, yes, that is what we want, but it's not UBI, like unconditional universal basic income.
Yep.
But because that is what we want, the unconditional one, right?
Yep.
So and thank you for traveling back in time and like doing all this work, because we've been following you for a couple of years now, and we've been watching you work tirelessly.
You work your ass off.
And we watch you like kind of almost burn out.
Yeah. Yep.
So how do you handle that? Because there's a lot of people out there who really want to save the world in a very short time, and they're just burning out. But just by following the social media, you can get like physical symptoms. You can get like burn out there in just in a week. And so how do you handle that?
I'm getting better at it. There's a lot
going on in the world.
Yeah. No, it's there are times when I was explaining this to people and their eyes would just glaze over, and they didn't understand A, what it was, or B, how important it was. But I've known since the inception of the industry, and frankly, the Club of Rome and the UN has copied my work, our words, our literal website, like almost word for word, and what they want to do. And
wow,
it's been crazy to see a solution and have it twisted into this monstrosity. And I feel very personally, like my own personal journey as a soul, it's very intense. Like I feel like I am in a war that people don't understand. And at the same time, like if I am the only one that understands that war and I'm burning out and going nuts, like nobody's going to understand or be there for me, until it becomes a real thing and people can see the doors open and whatever. They're not going to have my back. And I've seen that. I've been destroyed, and saw who was there to hold me and who wasn't. And it's very surprising. And and even those who held me, they weren't there to like pick me up. They were there to support me until I picked myself up. So once I've gone through these very, very human experiences and these hardships, like it's made all of this much more real. And not only that, but now I'm getting tremendous amount of support in all different directions. And honestly and truthfully and like from the bottom of my heart is when I fully, humbly returned to Christ, is like when everything started popping. And I have always been a follower of Christ in my heart, and the Christ consciousness, and trying to create that environment for the indwelling spirit of God to come through, right? Through art, through music, through business, through family, through just everything. And I left the church because of the corruption, because of the weakness of man, because of the fact that they would use Jesus's name to kill and murder millions of people around the planet, to enslave people. Like it makes me very angry. And so I was basically like, to all of that.
We just say it to each other this morning. Now it makes sense why in every church there's Christ crucified, because it's it's a friendly reminder
that if you get up there, they're going to put you on the cross.
That's what I said. I've been saying. It's like, what if Jesus returned? What do you think he'd do? He'd look around and see that, and there's the reminder. Try and step out of line again, young man. And what's going to happen? Like, and you know what? Like, can I curse?
All you want.
Fuck all of that noise. Like, we're here to be good human beings and to live in balance with nature, to live in balance with God's creation, to wonder, to love, to share, to express. And anybody who wants to turn me or my family or the people that I love into complex radioactive chickens, I'm going to do everything that I can to stop them. And so when everybody starts getting a whiff of what we're building here, and when everything else out there starts falling apart even further, it's going to become very obvious. Exactly.
So what is like, how far away is your vision to come to fruition? Like, or like
so
the,
what
the
I have,
base version of it, or?
yeah, so we have, we have a what's called a Reg D in the United States. The Securities and Exchange Commission has this classification called Reg D, which means we can raise money from private investors who are accredited investors, which means they have a certain amount of money or resources or whatever. And we are very close to closing our $5 million round, probably in the next couple days or next week, which means then we can actually build 3 to 6 months from there. We should have our first prototype of just the exchange and the wallets and the ID, right? Just the basics. And then from that Trinity, we can build out all of the rest, which is, getting our nationhood status or our sovereign status, then building our banking, getting our banking licenses in various countries, building out the governance. So, we have a coin that is for sale called the Phire token, PHIRE. You can only get it if you're an accredited investor and come speak to me. Shortly in the next couple months, we'll be going public on a Reg A offering, which means everybody can then purchase those tokens, and then start having value in the form of the coins. If you join the Phireon community now and start joining the app and start doing stuff in the app, we are going to be retroactively giving a whole bunch of those people coins, and they don't even know it yet. So that there's ways you can earn the coins, and there's ways you can get involved now. Join us at Phireon.com or at on the app. I'm easy to find at Xavier Hawk on all of the social platforms except Twitter because they suck. And
all the links are going to be in the email that goes out with this interview. So everywhere you can be found, we'll put that in the email. So everyone that signs up will get all those links. So awesome. And to the Phireon app and everything else, because we love it.
Sweet.
What?
Yeah, I'm interested in law. So I'm hearing, are we following natural law?
Yes.
Good.
And that's what phi is. Phi is the golden ratio. It's the magical sequence of numbers found in all life forms at some way, shape, or form in the trees, from our fingers. And we use that as the basis of our governance. And every system of life on the planet that has the phi ratio built in is robust. The Nautilus shell makes us gaze at it and wonder what the order is to all of the chaos in the universe. And so this is what we seek to embody as well. The fire of life, the soul fire.
Fantastic.
Good. And then we're above all the other kinds of laws, so that's good.
Yeah, it's real.
What is the most impactful step people can take right now to step in that direction of like liberating themselves and maybe nearing your
I am not hearing you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Can you still
not? I'm guessing what you said is what is the most impactful way people can start taking steps towards sovereignty, essentially?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would get involved in crypto, and I would learn how to use cryptocurrency and familiarize yourself with wallets. Coinbase, Stripe, there's Coin. What's that? There's one that crypto.com. There are a lot of wallets and wallet systems out there that you can integrate with and purchase your first cryptos that you can connect with your bank account. And the way I recommend to do that is to buy a stable coin like USDT or USDC. And I prefer Tether simply because I know the owner. And those are called stable coins. They don't fluctuate in price. And then you take those and you go to an exchange, and then you trade into the currencies or the cryptos that you want, like Bitcoin or Litecoin or whatever. And the reason why is because then when those other places like crypto.com and Coinbase, they will send in tax documents on your behalf saying, if you buy Bitcoin, what you bought it at, and then what it's worth now, and you'll owe that money. So if you buy USDT, they'll say you bought $10,000 worth of USDT, and $10,000 worth of USDT is still worth $10,000 TT, so you don't have the capital gains tax. So you buy the stable items, then you go to an exchange that doesn't do the KYC or tax reporting, trade into whatever you want, keep your records for yourself, and then stay. And then if you want, then come back from USDT back into your Fed or your Fed coins or your Fed fiat. Now I got to figure out how to fix this audio because I can't hear you.
Okay, now I can hear you again.
Cool. Well, I don't know how much, like, I have tons more questions, but not really any pertinent. Do you have anything you want to ask or?
No, I'm good. I have heard a lot of great things, and I feel very excited and yet
hopeful
calm about what you're saying. And I've been feeling that way for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Whenever you said something and you say it in a funny way too, where you have your channel still, I think, where you're a funny guy.
It's been gone for a while, hopefully coming back.
Yes, I intend on bringing it back once we are fully funded.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that would be the news channel that everyone should listen into, because Baseline kept us alive for a good long while when everything was.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for Baseline, and thank you for Phireon, and thank you for everything else you're doing. And we are looking forward to being a part of this beautiful new world that will come one way or the other. So thank you for all you're doing. And
we're jumping ships from the pirate ships onto the Spaceship Earth.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I wish you the best with this. It sounds like you've got some really great interviewers and interviewees, and it's going to be a great program. So congratulations, and thank you so much for considering me.
It's going to help a lot of people. So
and
that's
we are really honored that you want to take part.
Thank you.
I'm honored. Thank you. Amen. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you just saw, head on over to whoselifeisitsummit.com/podcast, where you can find full-length episodes as well as in audio format, and we do a lot of other cool stuff. You can hang out with us and other like-minded individuals who want to create a world that works for everyone, and we do that on our platform, where we can chat, and we have Q&As and exclusive interviews as well. So there's so much to get over there. So come on over and play with us.